So when I was 24 years old, I finished my degree. It's a math degree. And at the time I realized math wasn't for me. I'm not a math guy. It took me like 5 years to finally realize that. Like I went through it, and then it took me 5 years, so I went through that process. And I realized that's not me. I'm not a math guy. I want to do personal development. I want to do public speaking. I want to connect with people. I love that. So when I was 24 years old, I decided to make that change and start getting into the realm of public speaking and communication skills. And at the time, I decided like, I'm going to take a job that isn't the best job, and job that maybe I don't really like, and that's going to motivate me to be successful. Everyone heard someone doing that before? So everyone thought I was stupid, pretty much. Everyone was like, that's a bad idea. Like, why don't you bartend? You're good at bartending. It's fun. You make good money. Why don't you bartend? It's like, no, I'm going to take something that is going to be difficult and mentally challenging, and it's going to motivate me. Do you think I was motivated? No. So I got this job, and it was working in a post office during Christmas time. So if you've ever been in a post office Christmas time, massive line of people. And there's this thing that every Canadian can relate on, is that we all think that Canada Post, the prices are too high, and we all think Canada Post sucks. And I was on the receiving end of that, that like everyone is just relating on this one fact. So I'm on the receiving end of that, and I'm not even a Canada Post employee, I'm a Shoppers employee, because Canada Post outsourced their work for cheap. So I'm making like $11 an hour. I'm working at Shoppers, it's Christmas time, so the Christmas music is playing on repeat. And everyone's mad at me. They're in front of me, they're mad at me. And there's boxes everywhere surrounding me because I don't really know what I'm doing. And then on top of that, I'm wearing this Shoppers shirt, gray shirt, which is extremely itchy. And I'm in this itchy shirt. I'm in this itchy prison. My life is an itchy prison of complaints. And it was, I'll tell you, like it gets to a man. It makes it very, very challenging. And then on top of that, I had one more thing on top of that. It was right in my district that I grew up. So every once in a while, like a girl that I had a crush on in high school would come in and oh, what are you doing here, Calder? I'd be like, I got something on the side. I'm working on something on the side. I'm an entrepreneur. They didn't believe me. So over time, it wore on me. It got to me, eventually to a point where I had to make a transition, and then the next job was much, much better. So would you guys agree that environment can sometimes increase or decrease our positive emotions in the environment we're in? For sure. There's this book, or the movie that I love as a kid. It's called Big Fish, and there's this part in the movie when they talk about goldfish. So in the movie, they're talking about goldfish and how goldfish grow in proportion to their environment. So if you place a goldfish in a small enclosure, it grows to like 1 to 2 inches. But if you put it in a big space, it can grow to 6 to 12 times that size. Now, human beings are much like that too. Like if you put a human being in a small environment with negative people, bad influences, then they'll grow in proportion to that. But if you took a human being and they put them in an environment with great people, great content, great food, everything's just great, that they're going to grow in proportion to that environment. The same thing could be like, and you guys have probably heard the quote, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. You guys heard that before? Or you're the average of your 5 closest friends? Yeah, those go around all the time. And it's the same idea that the people that we're around, the things that we're around, they bleed into who we are as a human being. So that's why we're going to talk about, first section we're going to talk about is environment. So there's 2 types of environmental stimuli. There's environmental stimuli that you can control. So you can control showing up today or not showing up. You can control, reading a book or not reading a book. So there's environmental stimuli you can control. And then there's environmental stimuli. What do you think? How am I going to finish the sentence? That you can't control. What's an example of environmental stimuli you can't control? Yep. The wind. That's right. Yeah, you can't control the wind. You can't control the weather. If it rains, it pours, you can't control that. I'll give you a quick example. I was on a date, first date with this girl, and we're walking around. The date's going pretty good. Like, I'm like, all right, I'm the man. So I'm thinking in my mind. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's never happened in my life before, a bird poops on my head. Like, can a man recover from that? Like, I don't know. And then in the same date, this was a crazy date. Like the same date, we're out walking together, and I see this squirrel, and I'm like, oh, cute little squirrel, look at this squirrel, look at this squirrel. And the squirrel starts running towards me. And then he's climbed up my leg, and I just, never happened before, and squirrels are so fast that they're kind of scary. And so I just started screaming, I'm shaking, I'm screaming, very high pitched, ah! And then the squirrel goes up, and because my leg's still shaking, I kick him, and he goes flying. Environmental stimuli you just can't control, right? We're going to talk a little bit later about what we can control, which is generally how you perceive it, how you interpret it. But what we're going to focus on right now is the environmental stimuli that you can control. So just flip the slide. So we got in the middle your positive emotions. And everything else on the outside, you could think of it like your environmental stimuli. So if it's something positive, it's going to build you up. It's going to increase your positive emotions. If it's something negative, you can think of it like it's like a poison. It's going to decrease. It's attacking your positive emotions. So everything that we surround ourselves with is going to have some sort of effect, positive or negative effect. And many people, this is really important, but many people don't fully analyze everything that's in their environment, everything that they're consuming. And a lot of the effects are on a subconscious level. Like you're not aware that it's affecting you, but it's bringing you down, bringing you down. Just like, like there's a dirty shirt on your floor and you leave it there for a while and it just bugs you. And then eventually you move it and you actually feel good. Like you feel really good, you just got it out of the way. So we're gonna talk about a few quick ones just to, give you some ideas. These are some things that I try and stay conscious and aware of to help improve my life and to really surround myself with the best environment possible. So the first one is space. So you guys think like an organized space is important? Somewhat, yeah? Oh, cool. Yeah, I think it's very important. And there's a book called The Organized Mind. You might have heard of that book or read that book. But they talk about the mind is in proportion to the environment. So when your space is organized, you'll actually have an organized mind as well. So your mind will be more relaxed, it'll be more calm, more present to the moment. And from this stems a lot more conscious power to focus, to think deeply. So if you have an organized space, you have an organized mind. And so I really throw it into three categories. Like the spaces that you're in the most, what do you think? Your house, number one? What's the next one? The second most occupied space. Car? Car, yeah, that's for sure. And the office. So house, car, office. These are kind of your three biggest spaces that you're in, and these are the ones that you probably have the utmost control over. So if those spaces aren't organized, if they're dirty, they're messy, it's going to affect you over time. It's going to start to bring you down. So some things to think about when you're organizing your space, your room, is that, are you surrounding yourself with things that are purposeful? Right? That you actually use them. Or you're just surrounding yourself with stuff. It's like a lot of people, they have like lots of stuff. They accumulate lots of stuff. They build attachment to the stuff. But also it requires a lot of processing power. It tires you out when you're looking at all these things. And some people, it's even so crazy. Some people hold on to things from like a relationship, but it doesn't bring them happiness when they see it. They're like, it brings them like sadness and anger. Like I did that for a while, and it didn't bring me happiness. Oh, I miss you. We broke up. It wasn't good. So the things that you surround yourself with, they should have a purpose. You should be using them. You should have minimalistic environment. You shouldn't be overcluttering it with a million different things. And those are kind of some of the big ideas, big concepts, and then overall just having a clean place. So picture this, like you wake up one morning and you wake up, you're in bed, you roll over, and it's just a bunch of plates and like dirty wrappers. Is that gonna make you feel good? No. But you can picture the other side too, like you wake up, you open your eyes, and you're in this place where you're surrounded by things that you love. You actually love them, and things that give you value. And so from that stems an internal sense of purpose, an internal sense of value. I have value, I value my space, therefore I value my body. The things in my space have purpose, therefore I have purpose. And you exist in this environment. And studies show that when you surround yourself with an environment like that, you create an environment like that, what stems from that is more confidence, and you're just more grounded in the person that you want to be. So these are like, you could take them or leave them, these tips. They're small wins though in my book. Like, making your bed is like a small win. Surrounding yourself with things you love is like a small win. But you have to have the mindset like that everything you do is bleeding into everything else. So the choices that you make today, the small choices, the big choices, that bleeds into everything else. Bleeds into tomorrow, bleeds into next week, bleeds into the rest of your life. So you want to have a great life, you make these small micro choices on a daily basis, and it starts to compound. It starts to build off of itself. And life can become much more fun, much more enjoyable. So move on from that. Media. Anyone feel like media is like this is like, no, they're not into media? It brings them down. Social media. You guys see the movie Avatar? So I liken like negative media to the movie Avatar. So you go on, like you're scrolling Instagram. I'll explain in a second. This is a very deep concept. So negative media. So okay, let's say you're scrolling through Instagram and you see these icons. Anyone have an icon that they follow? Beyonce, or like, I don't know if you follow her. Well, who do you follow? Oh, okay. Yeah. So you see these icons, and they're just, they're doing some amazing things. They have a couple convertibles. They have lots of money. They're having fun. You see these glimpses of icons, just glimpses of the best things, and then you go back into your life, and then you have this, reality. They're like, you're driving in traffic. You're like, oh man, they're flying their jet, and you're stuck in traffic, right? And you're relating it back to them. So the thing I'll relate that back to Avatar is like when people want to watch Avatar, you guys seen Avatar? They want to watch Avatar, and they see this amazing world, like it's just like so breathtaking, spectacular. They see this guy, he's plugging in this tail of this like dragon thing into his head, and then he's jumping on, he's flying it around. And people watch this, and they're like, wow, like they're blown away. And then the movie ends. And what happens? They walked out, they went into their car, they sat in their car, and then they got stuck in traffic. And you can look this up. There was a lot of people that had depression because of the relation from Avatar land, amazing, wonderful, to their life, which is sometimes a grind, and sometimes can be challenging. So if you feel like media, Instagram, Facebook, those things are negative influences, and they're impacting you, then you can choose not to partner up with those. You choose who you want to partner up with and what you want to partner up with. So you can choose not to partner up with Instagram, and instead you could choose to partner up with maybe like someone who's talking about motivational things, or an entrepreneur who's sharing their stories and things that you watch and you're like, oh man, like I could do this too. The same thing could be said from a book. Like I think books are amazing because it's some of the most insightful ideas of people throughout history, and they sat down, they took the time in their life to write their best thoughts out. Like this is when they're at their higher self. And you could sit down, you could purchase this book for like the price of a meatball marinara, like so cheap, extremely cheap, like $10, and you could read their best thoughts, their best insights. You could read stories like you could read Nelson Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom, and you could hear about this guy conquering apartheid. And then you could go and the bird poops on your head, and you're like, man, like that sucks. But then you think about Nelson Mandela, and he's in prison for 15 years, and you're like, if he can overcome that, maybe I can overcome this, little insignificant thing. Shoe Dog's another good one. You guys know the story of Shoe Dog, Phil Knight. He decides at 25 years old, he's going to fly down to Japan. He's going to walk into a place where they make shoes, this big factory. He's going to sit down with the executives, and he's just going to fake it till you make it. And you're like, well, what I'm doing is challenging. And then you think of Phil Knight. You're like, man, like what he did? That takes courage, and you glean courage from that. You glean inspiration. You glean strength. So all the things that you surround yourself with, the podcast, the YouTube, the social media, all of it is either going to increase or decrease your positive emotions. It's going to build you up or make you feel worse. Does anyone have anything that makes them feel better? That they look at and they're like, that feels good. Books, podcasts, speakers, poetry. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's another form of content. Poetry, it can be very inspirational, for sure. So move on from that one. And the next one is people. So the people that you surround yourself with. And for a lot of people, this is one that's talked about a lot. So they say, the people that you surround yourself with can make you feel amazing. They can make you feel outstanding, or they can make you feel like less of a human. And you've probably been around someone like that just like, no, you can't do that. You come up to them with your idea, like, I want to do this. I got this amazing idea. And they're like, no, that can't happen. When I was 23 years old, I decided out of nowhere, I wanted to be a professional speaker. That was my goal. And I'd never done a speech before. And I told my dad, and he's like, all right, son, you should email people who are professional speakers. And maybe they'll respond. And what I found out is that people at a high level, people who are successful, they're actually not bad people. A lot of people have this perception that people at a high level are they stepped on some necks to get there. That they did wrong to get there. But actually, the reality is that a lot of these people, they want to help out, people who are down low. And so I sent this guy an email, and he's like, hey, we can meet for a call. I picked up the phone, I called him, we talked for 2 hours. And after, he's like, I'd love to be your mentor. And he gave me a lot of inspiration, and he gave me the courage to, follow my dream. So the people that we surround ourselves with on a daily basis have a massive effect on us. You can go into work, you guys go into work, and you walk by someone, you're like, how's it going? They're like, oh, it's a Monday. You guys know that line? It's a Monday. Or, it's going. Or, it's Friday. How's it going? TGIF, am I right? Is that inspirational? Is that motivational? I mean, maybe if you got some big plans in the week and you're like motivated now to finish up, but what people do, what they say, their energy, it affects us either positively or negatively. So we need to consciously think about that as well. So last thing I'm going to talk about is the idea of fuel. Now, what do you think fuel is? For a human being, what's our fuel? The food? Yeah, right on. The food we eat. So the food we eat, in a simple way, can make us feel better, make us feel worse. So we talk about the Red Bull area. You drink the Red Bull, you feel really, really good. And then after that, you don't feel so good. So I'll give you two things that you should consider with food. The first thing is you want to consider nutrient-dense food, food that's full of life, that will sustain life. The second thing you want to consider is food that is neutral, so it doesn't cause increases or decreases. So the foods that are full of sugar, those will generally spike you or decrease you. You want to stay neutral, you want to stay relaxed, you have to choose the right fuel sources. Now human beings, we come from like the human beings, like our diet. A lot of it was based on geography. It was based on what was readily available for when we got hungry. So where do you get hungry? You get hungry at work, you get hungry when you're driving, you get hungry at home. So what should you do? You should stack those environments with good food, good fuel, so that when you do get those cravings, you fall into the lower self, the lower state, and you're like, oh, I'm stressed, oh, I'm worried, that like you reach into the fridge and you got something good. You got something that's gonna make you feel good. Right? It's that easy, it's that simple. So Michelangelo, one of the greatest sculptors of all time, he says that within every block of clay, there's a sculpture waiting to be discovered. And you could think you yourself are that sculpture, and all it takes is for you to, get the hammer, get the chisel, and start chiseling away the things that don't support you, the things in your life that are bringing you down, the things that are weighing you down, and create an environment, an atmosphere that forces success, that demands success, that positive emotions are just a natural result or occurrence of that space, that environment.